Anna Charalambous is a Deakin alum and a film producer. Her passion for storytelling has led her to work on everything from student films to documentaries shown at South by Southwest. In this episode, Anna tells us about her early days studying film, why she was petrified to pick up a film camera, and how she found her way to producing stories that can change people's lives. From the lands of the Wurundjeri people, this is Stories of Wonder. Anna Charalambous, welcome to Stories of Wonder.
Thank you for having me. Hello.
Pleasure. Okay, so first up, tell us a little bit about your journey into film and TV. Why did you choose to study it in the first place?
I feel like it's like a controversial answer, and I'm conscious of where I'm sitting on a Deakin podcast. But
Are we ready? I think we're ready.
It's not controversial at all. I have no idea why, to be honest. I did media in year 12, and I remember being like, because I went straight out of school into uni, and I really enjoyed media. I did like my first little short film at school, and then I think I just threw in a bunch of like media comms story things into my uni selection
like
preferences. There you go. And then I just got back. I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to do film and TV at Deakin, I guess. And then was like, okay, we'll just try that, because you just like, I feel like you finish, unless you've got a really clear idea of like what you want to do, that time after high school and then into uni is like, I remember that break being like the longest break of my life.
Yep.
And
Same.
You've just done this like intensive period of like exams, you've gone to schoolies, you've just like tried, you're like, okay, I guess I've got to figure out who I am now. Oh, and I've got to select a degree and choose my career path.
Totally. And you've gone to school without much choice about things for like your most of your conscious life at that point. And then all of a sudden it's like, make a choice.
Here you go, decide.
Choose.
Worked out for me though, so I am grateful for that.
Well, yeah. I mean, so how did it feel stepping into like the studios and the facilities at Deakin for the first time?
Yeah, I think the first year at Deakin, I was like just so overwhelmed. Like I reckon my first day I got here, couldn't find the building and went home. I literally was like.
That is probably a very, very common thing.
And I'm going to be honest. It was like I was overwhelmed. I didn't know anyone else that was coming to Deakin, and I was like, I can do it. Like, I'm confident. I can get myself around. But then I came here and I was like, whoa, what is all of this? I think that the first, like for me, was quite jarring, I think, into subjects. And then I finally found the building and then, got into my first few subjects and was like, okay, and the kind of concept of independent learning, I think was a challenge for me initially because I was so not used to it.
Yeah.
I felt quite overwhelmed, and I was also in classes with people that were like, yes, I have a Red camera and I use it all the time. And I'm like, pardon? What do you mean? Like I did the subject at school. So it definitely felt like when I came into uni, there were people that like were filmmakers. And then I was like, go into a film degree and we'll just see what happens.
Yeah. And so did you have to, in that first, semester, like, touch the equipment, play around with the cameras, like get into it?
Yeah, I felt like I was definitely catching up. And there were people like in the class. I think that's everywhere, right? There's people that know things a lot more than you do, and then you're just catching up. But I think this was the first time where I was like, whoa, there's like quite a different spread here. Because at school you're like always kind of chugging along at the same pace as the people beside you.
Yeah.
But then you come into this thing where everyone has their interests. There are like older students in your class who've maybe done a whole other degree and are now doing their second degree when you're like, I'm 18.
Yeah.
I think it was a very big mix of overwhelm. And then started like kind of getting the swing of things. I was like, okay, cool. This is how you coil. I remember literally being outside the building and learning how to coil a cable for the first time. I have like such a memory of us all standing there throwing yellow leads and being like, over, under, over, under.
Yes.
So I think I really enjoyed that it was like a physical degree, and I was like learning how to make stuff and learning how to coil a cable and learning how this is with Liz, and we'll probably talk about Liz a lot on this podcast.
Liz,
Bulge,
if you're listening.
shout out Liz. She did the first sort of writing with the camera subject that we did, and I put an SD card in the camera, and there's a little lock on the side of an SD card. Didn't know that. I was like, Liz, it's not, I just filmed some stuff and I don't know, it's gone. And Liz was like,
no.
So remember at the start of the term we talked about the lock, and I was like, got it, unlock. But it was really cool, I think, for me to have things, right? I wasn't like, okay, cool. So then you clip this and clip that. I had to like learn stuff physically.
Yeah.
And so that's why I feel like when I started touching stuff and getting into that space, I sort of was like, okay, cool, I can get it. I can figure it out.
Yeah. Liz Bolsh is going to be the patron saint of this episode.
Absolutely. We should probably have bought a little.
Yeah, a little picture up there.
Yeah.
Well, so, how long did it take? Because it sounds like you didn't even know whether you wanted to be a filmmaker or anything like that. How long did it take in doing the course to sort of figure out that you might want to be a producer?
Okay, don't say it like that. I feel like it's that kind of stigma that we get, that people don't want to be producers. I definitely sort of in the second year started. I think we did our TV subject and we sort of started pairing off into groups and sort of having a bit more independence in creating projects together. And then, I think when you start kind of being put in groups and you start doing like group work and stuff, like there's always the bad side of group work, right, which you learn, but you also learn about like trying to find your own space and like, okay, cool, I think I like this stuff. I think I like that stuff. So I think when we started doing those in second year, we did our TV unit and I think we did our documentary unit for the first time as well. And I had a really great team, I remember, in that. What was the doc about? Yeah, well, we'll come back to that. But I had a really great team in my second year subjects that I think set a really good foundation of like, okay, this could be something I want to pursue as I don't even think you do a film degree thinking about employment. I think you don't do that. But I at least thought, even if this is just a passion, I like this and it's great. And I always think I really like storytelling. I talk a lot. I really like talking to people and communicating with people. So I think that I was like, okay, maybe that's why I wanted to be a filmmaker, or like maybe I wanted to work in this field is because I really like talking and telling. And I think there's something really special in storytelling. And I think my version of that is, what do they call it? The silver screen.
So big question for you, Anna.
Yes.
What is a producer?
Oh, God.
And why is it an important role in a film, in a production?
Yeah, I think I always sort of do this like maybe it's because just I'm ethnic and I just talk with my hands all the time, but I sort of think about a producer sort of as like this and then that. So you're sort of like,
do we get that?
Do you want me to do it again for you?
The wide,
this and then the push. It's the push is important, right?
Yeah.
I think, and I think there's always different versions, right? There's people are different types of producing. I feel like I'm quite a creatively led producer. So I feel like what I'm making really matters. But I think you're sort of, you're part of the leading team on a project and you are, this is your ship and you've got to sort of make sure it keeps moving. And I think that you as a producer, you facilitate, coordinate, and you move things forward. And I think a lot of the times you're potentially one of the first few people to join a project and you are very often the last one. Obviously there's very different circumstances for producing, but I'd say you're, sort of the project manager, if you will, at the very top level, kind of trying to start it and finish it and then everything that comes in between.
Right. And then within all of that, it sounds like there's like a million different sort of jobs that you have to do depending on what phase you're in, from, how you interact with people and encourage and push people to how you organize things and how they're going to get done, to budgets and things like that. Like, give us a little bit of a rundown of your sort of, I don't know, a few days within, a production. Yeah. Of what a producer would be doing. Yeah.
And I think it scales, right? Like the bigger the project, the more sort of teams you can facilitate with. But I think like from a sort of uni level to like an independent level, you are doing a lot of things. Like we always call it the email factory. Like me and my laptop just sitting there fighting against the world, punching out emails or writing call sheets or, drafting spreadsheets. But essentially you're sort of managing, you're trying to find finance, you're trying to figure out, how, because, everyone's got great ideas, but then it's like, how do you take the idea and make it actually happen? Like it's great to have ideas. We always need ideas people, but we also need ideas people that can go, okay, but that idea would work with this amount of money, and I think if you're not, if the idea doesn't come with a pocket of money, because that's awesome when it's like, great, I've had this idea and I've got this budget, let's make it. And then the producer would sort of come in and go, okay, cool. So this is how I think we'll use the money. This is how we engage these people to do that. And then this is how we get it from idea with money to final product. So I think it's a lot of communicating, a lot of emailing, a lot of, you're coordinating. You're trying to like bring a lot of people together. You're trying to unite a lot of people on one thing and kind of bring the team together and keep the team moving efficiently, and try and also see when the team is breaking down and go, okay, cool. So there's, there's challenges here. How do we fix that? Do we bring people back in? Do we look to replace people? How do we keep this thing moving? So it's like it's the collection, but it's also the push to the finish line. And sometimes that finish line is like years and years away. Like there's just got to be something in you. I think a producer just has to have that innate ability to keep going.
Yeah.
You've just got to keep going.
Wow. So I guess, on that then, what are the qualities that you've seen in your experience that make a good producer?
Yeah, I mean, that's quite a big question. I don't want to be like labeling producers everywhere, but I feel like communication is like super important in film anywhere, right? And you have to be able to communicate your idea, communicate like everything, and quite quickly as well. You've always got to be like, okay, cool, I need to get this across, and then this, so that somebody else can take it and take what you wanted and make it happen. I think project like time management, people management is really important, financing, and I think, I think ultimately it's just a work ethic, right? You just gotta, because sometimes it's real hard, and sometimes you're doing like, especially on like the smaller projects, which is mostly how we all start. You're the one there first, turning everything on. If you don't have a runner or production assistants, you're making people coffee, you're keeping people happy, and you're the person at the end of the day going, okay, thanks everybody, see you again in the morning. All right, I'll start transferring data. Like you are often the sort of, I guess, I don't want to say backbone because there's so many backbones in a project, but
you're one
part
of the engines by the sound of it
yeah.
that really keeps
it going.
Keeps the whole project running.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Why do we do it?
Well, yeah. I mean, like, producing sounds like a very full-on role. What drives you and is it sustainable?
Self-reflection. Absolutely. I mean, I love it, right? I think it is, I don't know whether it's the challenge of like seeing something and going, I reckon we can do that. And then being just like crazy enough to be like, let's go. We can keep going. We can do it. Let's go. Come on. What if we do? Come on. Let's keep going. I do always love while it's challenging to be on a project for 6 years, 5 years, 4 years, there's something really special about seeing it at the end, being like, I remember when this was, a piece of, a Word document that came in and said this character, this person, this, that. And then you're like, look at it, we did it. Yeah. And seeing it change. So I think that there's just something so satisfying in that process.
Yeah. I
also really love fixing problems. I'm like, something goes wrong, even like with my friends. I'm like, all right, let's go. What are we doing? How are we fixing it? Like, let's go. So I love a bit of problem solving, and I think it's just so much of that, of being like, okay, no money. All right, how are we going to do it this time? How are we figuring it out? So I think I love it. And I just love storytelling. I don't think, I'm definitely good at some things and not good at others. Like, do not give me a camera. I do not want to see it. I do not want to touch it. You pick the lens. I don't care. Go. It scares me. But I love, and I can appreciate the incredible work that people do in the team. But I think, and I just love, I love reading something and then seeing the final thing and be like, okay, cool. And watching people then take it, like watching, a director or a writer or even like a costume designer being like, I read it like this. And I'm like, whoa, I didn't read it like that. Yeah. I didn't see flowers. Like, where were you? How are you seeing that? And I think that's one of the really special things about, being able to create stuff, but in a collaborative process, is that you just see everyone's version of something. And that's why I think film is so, like, every time I watch a film, I'm like, oh, who had that idea? Like, why did that come through? And like, who was managing all the extras? I cannot watch a big crowded scene without being like, who was facilitating that?
Oh my goodness. Having done extras work in the past or been on a set with it, it's like,
it's hardcore. And then you're always like, because I think there's a lot of like CGI involved in the bigger budget stuff. So you're like, okay, cool. They're all just like, they've drawn them in later. But when there's like, and everyone's moving and I'm like, and then I love trying to spot the extra that's like double appeared because he's gone the wrong way and they've cut and used another scene. And I'm like, there he is. Where's the jacket?
Yeah.
So it really just does get into your everyday life and ruin movies forever probably, but, but it's great.
And that's so beautiful about what you say as well, like, you know, seeing, you know, a project right at the very end when you're at the release stage or it's out and it's in the world or whatever it is, and you're like, I remember this as an email.
Yeah.
I remember this big, you know,
fully someone telling me this at a party
thing as a little message.
Yeah. And then it's rolled and we've made people sit through it for 80 minutes or 90 minutes.
Yeah. And they hated it.
They hate it. Well, yeah. And then people have the audacity to hate something. But it's, I think the whole thing is it's quite cool. I think it's and I think with documentaries and even, you know, like scripted stuff, you get such an interesting look into the world. Like with docos, you go into people's lives and they tell you all these stories that and you know, a lot of the times it's not the full stories that people are seeing when they're watching something. There's all those other little things where you're like, oh, wow. They told us, you know, we were interviewing them for 2 hours and, you know, 20 minutes made the final, even max, like 10 minutes is on screen. That whole other hour and 50 minutes is just full of someone else's perspective on life, whatever. And it's such a privileged position to be in, to hear people telling you stories all the time, because you just, it's just like, and then you remember it and you take it on, and you know, when things are hard, you're like, God, remember this story, or remember hearing that and being in this part of the world and being like, I'm good. Like if this is the hardest thing I have to do, I'm fine.
Yeah.
So there's beautiful things. You hear hilarious stories, or you get stuck in ridiculous situations where you're like, oh, cool. So today I'm in Africa and I'm going to be in Guatemala next week.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Tell me about, you know, some of these problems that you've had to solve on productions where you've been in a seemingly like, oh my goodness, how are we going to get out of this one kind of thing?
God.
But you've had to figure it out and move forward.
I'm just trying to think about what I can say and not get in trouble for. But I feel like there's always everyone will have a story, and there's so many projects that things go wrong all the time. So I think it's just how you manage them. But I'm just think what was the so we did the Spreadsheet Champions, which I'm sure we'll talk about very soon.
Yeah.
We made a documentary.
Never heard of that one. Yeah.
So we were filming a documentary, and it was a 2-person crew. So it's literally me and then the director, who was also had the camera on her shoulder the whole time. So tiny, when you're talking about no resources, it's like, we want to do this, we got to go. Like, this is it, we got to do it. And I think we took like 18 international flights in 6 weeks or something.
Oh,
wild.
My goodness. In 6 weeks.
Yeah. So we were bouncing around the world. And I mean, nothing, like lots of things went wrong, but all of the big important things went right. So that was for me, like, I just remember we flew like Australia, Vietnam, bounced around Vietnam, Cameroon, Greece, Guatemala, the US, bounced around the US, came back home. And so we did all of that mid-summer, peak Euro summer, you know, flying from continents. And then we landed back in Melbourne. And as both of our suitcases came out, we both turned to each other and we're like, do you know our suitcases have made it the whole time? We've been on all these flights and our suitcases are here. So it was just like, wow. This isn't an answer to your question at all, but it was like things going right, where I was like, we were meant to do this, right?
Yeah.
Like nothing got lost.
Yeah.
Everything made it.
Yeah.
That's unheard of.
Wow.
But
that's the opposite of the question I asked.
Absolute opposite.
Yeah, but
so things go right. Things
still.
go right.
Yeah. There you go. There you have it. Producing. Yeah. Everything goes right all the time.
Just leave it to the universe. No, we've had, so many things go wrong. Like actors don't turn up and, actually, I'm just going to blame actors. That's,
Okay.
Yeah, actors. No, I'm absolutely kidding. People, get locations wrong. I've sent like wrong wrong call sheets out with wrong times, and people are turning up at the wrong time because it's just like one, tiny number. And you're like, oh, yeah, I wrote 17 instead of 15.
With an instant snowball effect.
Yeah, and it's just knocked everything out of play. And then you've got to be sitting there calling and calling and calling. They're like, sorry, I meant 5, not 3. Sorry, or whatever it was. You accidentally erase. You've filmed an interview for a whole day, and your SD card breaks. How good's that? I think it was Technetics. Shout out to
we're saving this interview, aren't we? Yeah.
How many times do we back up here?
Yeah.
3 backups. That's what we do. But yeah, like you've sitting there filming for a whole day, and you take the card out, you put the card in to wrangle it, and it's like error. And I'm like, oh, cool. And that's like no one could have, like, it's no one's fault. The card because SD cards just apparently sometimes corrupt.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, cool. How do I fix
someone
this?
didn't close the...
I wasn't involved.
Oh, Anna strikes again.
They obviously didn't do running with the camera with Liz. But yeah, you just have to, and I think my housemate, so she's a production coordinator, and she tells this brilliant story about how she had moths in all the clothes one day for a project. It was like a big show, I can't remember the show, and there was just moths in the clothes. And it was her job to fix it. And she was like, how do I deal with the entire costume department has moths all over them? And so she organised an industrial-sized freezer to be dropped off because apparently moths, this might be not, moths die when it's cold. And then they just froze the moths out. Like how do you tell people that that's what you did at work? You organised an industrial freezer to freeze moths out of clothes so they didn't have to replace a whole wardrobe for a whole TV show.
Wow.
Is that not crazy?
It's pretty cool that that they figured that out.
She's hardcore. She's very, very good at her job. But it's all sorts of versions of that. Like cards corrupt, people don't turn up, you've made mistakes, gear gets sent to the wrong place, data gets wiped, you have to reshoot. You know, you lose budget because someone miscalculates a shoot day and, you know, you accidentally it's sometimes the most boring of problems, but you're like, oh, yep, I have to fix this. Like we've accidentally spent an extra 10% on our on our crew because we miscalculated the hours. We've just lost 10% of our contingency, which we were holding for music. We can't get music. Or I had a really great, I don't know if I can, I'm not going to specify who the artist was, but I think we had a really good music clearance. I had a big music clearance win where like we were in the edit of a project and we're like late in delivering. And then all of a sudden the director was like, wouldn't it be great if we used this artist in this scene? And we had like 3 weeks to lock. This artist was like one of huge, right? Budget, documentary sized budget. So nothing wild. We had a little bit held for music. And the kind of clearance process for this artist is famously very hard. And I remember being like, all right, well, I'm going to try everything I've got. And I weaseled my way through and found the estate lawyer who manages the estate, found his phone number. He was American. Just called him one afternoon. I was like, hi, so I'm from Australia and we're making a doco and we just want to talk about clearance. And he was like, oh yeah, I think I saw an email from you. And then we got it because it was just like trying to find the way into the room. And then within like a week and a half, we had clearance for this thing that famously takes like years. Some people because it was, the context is important for this one to really like win the win, but famously it's a very, very hard thing to clear, but you just sort of have to find ways around it and find the person to talk to and find the way into the room or into the conversation a lot of the times.
That just, again, it speaks to the drive that you need to just that nope, we're cutting this out. You said the word before, indefatigable drive. Did I get it?
You got to just keep going.
Yeah.
I think ultimately it's always that, right? It's always that like, I want this, we want this, we have to get it done. If we don't have money, it's going to take time. If we don't have time, all right, let's just throw some money at it. If you don't have either, you just got to find the person to talk to. And ultimately it's always that, right? It's always being like, because I love a little LinkedIn stalk. Like I'll just sit there and go into a business's like, and even if it's like Sony or like NASA, I'm like, okay, who will I find in NASA's staff that will help me? And then you just send out those emails and then you just sort of, I just guess. You're just like, okay, I think, I like the way this person, I can see something in the background. Okay, I'll just angle it that way. And then you're sending about, 50 emails out, but, if you get 2 back and it wins, it wins.
Yeah.
It's this like persistence and this inability to hear the word no. Just I'll try anyway. I'll try again. Okay, I'll try one more time. And then the third time it works. And then I'm like, cool, validated. I'll keep going.
So how did you sort of finish uni and break into, or were you already working during uni on projects, on actual film sets?
What was my end of uni life like? I think because first year freaked me out, honestly. I didn't do, I think when I was at uni, I was like, if I can stay like in this film building, I'll be fine. I know where everything is. So I didn't do a lot of electives. So I had like all these subjects units I had to
Just
complete.
Sort of banking up.
Yeah, and I was like, it'll work out. So I sort of finished my like film degree sort of within the 3 years of finishing the film degree, but then had, I think like 2 or 4 subjects left.
Yeah.
And I just was like, oh goodness, how am I going to go back and do those? So I think I finished my 3rd year because you do a project, and I'm not sure if it's still, I'm assuming it's still like that too. You do your final year film, and I produced that one. And, you know, that was when I really got work, you know, talking to Liz, and because Liz was our mentor for all the producers. And Liz was like, you know, I'm pretty good at this. Like if you take this seriously, like this could be, you know, your thing. Like it's really important to have, I can't remember what specifically Liz said, but it worked obviously. But really kind of took me aside and was like, this is real. Like this is a real career path. You could do it. It's going to be really hard, but you know, did you enjoy it? And I was like, yeah, I actually really did like the process of bringing this thing into life. So, and then Donna McRae, who's also a lecturer at Deakin, had a film that she was making at the end of, it was almost like we finished our 3rd year film, and then she was directing this film that Liz was producing. So it really just worked out.
Yeah, yeah.
And then which was amazing, they selected some students to come and work on the project. So that was sort of, I came out of it, finished my 3rd year subject, and then went straight onto a feature film, which is pretty epic, like to have gotten that. And then I was working, I think I was the 2nd AD, so second assistant director, working with Liz. And it was really small. There was probably a crew of like 15 of us. It was definitely not, you know, the sort of size that you kind of slot into these crazy roles where your job is to do this one thing and do this one thing for 10 hours. So I was like helping Liz draft call sheet. I mean, that's the second AD's job, but I was drafting call sheets with Liz, but then I was also helping with all the sort of producing elements because Liz was first ADing and producing, which is often the way when you're working on small independent stuff, you've got a lot of hats on. So I did that and I was like, okay, I really enjoy this. I love being in the production office. I love it. I love the, you know, the kind of pace and the speed and the doing. So then after that, I then just sort of, you meet people on sets and then they say, oh, hey, we need someone to run and be an assistant on this job. I'm like, all right, cool. And I just sort of committed to that for then kind of the end of that year, and then just kept working and finding my you know space in other projects. I was production assisting, running, and then I went into sort of the assistant directing space, which is sort of the facilitating the day. So the assistant director is the first AD is running the day. They're the person that come in and they've organised your schedule and they're telling you what you're doing when you're doing it. They're like, all right, everybody get ready. Like that's the voice you're hearing all day is the AD. So then I was doing that sort of stuff, which taught me how to schedule, which taught me how to run a day, which taught me how to like the kind of magic of the set, like kind of facilitating it all. And I was like, came back and I was like, God, I don't think I can do this one full time. Like it is so much. So then I sort of was like, I need to commit to the produce. I think the producing is the thing for me that's calling. So then, just sort of started producing small shorts with my friends that I met at uni and, you know, through, you find your space, I think, like you start working in the industry and you're like, okay, cool, like they got my jokes or like they got this. And then we just started making small stuff so we could get into the habit of it for like no money. And then eventually you just sort of, like I got offered a job on 2040, which is a feature documentary as an impact what was my job? Impact coordinator, which then ultimately led me to working at Good Thing Productions as a assistant producer, which was like the proper first step.
Right. Yeah. And so it just sounds like those initial opportunities that you got through uni, like the connections you'd made at uni and impressing your teachers really.
Yeah, Liz liked me.
Yes.
It was like, I actually think my biggest achievement. Liz is so scary. I was like, Liz likes me.
Wouldn't know.
Yes.
But yeah, you were able to create that sort of network effect, you know, like another opportunity here, a connection over there, another, you know, and all of a sudden you've got, you know, a few credits in different roles and a whole bunch of experience to draw on.
Yeah.
Do you think that uni, like the course actually prepared you for, you know, being thrown in to those situations?
I think the concept of going to university probably helped me because I think I had the same like level of like, what am I doing here?
Yeah, but like you've got to figure it out.
But then, same thing, right? You've got to figure it out. Like people will offer you a job and you've just got to say yes and you've just got to commit. And then I think it definitely helped, you know, like I think doing a degree and then going to work in a field, there's so much you don't know until you start doing it. Like there's no way that it can mirror it perfectly because like how could you? But I think it definitely taught me the kind of, it kept me working through the kind of communication and collaboration stuff. It's like fundamentally the end of the day.
Yeah.
If you can't communicate and you can't work with other people, film's going to be quite hard for you. So I think, and that's something you learn at university. I'd say in whatever degree you're doing, you always learn, okay, group work is hard when someone doesn't pull their weight or, you know, so you ultimately do that. And I think the pressure of like having to do something in a semester and make a film in a semester is kind of the intensity of the industry. Like obviously not to scale, but you know, you got to go. You got to like decide this is when you shoot, this is the blocks, this is the gear you get, go. And I think like ultimately a lot of the times until and if we ever break into the sort of money where we can do whatever we want, you are always having to fit within, you know, you got to make it work. And I think that was really great within that sort of, there's the structure of the sort of final year project, but at the end of the day, how do you make that work for you? And you sort of learn how to, make something, say something, make something. And then we saw it at the Astor, which was so sick. That was like being in this like massive, beautiful cinema and watching our little films play consecutively. But
so like, the films that you did at Deakin in the final year.
They screened them at the Astor, which is so cool.
Yeah, nice.
And then I've had a film that I worked on. I was the associate producer, screened at the Astor like a few years ago. And I was like, I told my producer, I was like, you know, I've had my uni film play here. So this isn't the first time I've seen my name on this screen, you know.
Yeah. That's so cool though, because it gave you the feel, like you got to feel the process all the way to the delivery.
To that sort of final role,
go do it.
Yeah. Good luck.
In the real world.
Yeah. And I think then I still had those 4 units to answer your question. I had to come back to uni.
Yeah.
Right.
Lame. Did you think of just not?
I definitely thought of just not. I absolutely was like, I'm not finishing this degree. I've done it. I'll say I had a film degree. No one needs to know if I have the paper or not. And then it was, shout out Liz. We should have a Liz count on how many times I say her name.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I was going to take a sec.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. So I came back to university after working in the industry for I think like a year and a half and was like, okay, I need to finish this. And so I did sort of my elective subjects.
And what did Liz say? Was she just sort of like, you should?
We had a deal that if I finished my degree, Liz is coming to my graduation. And Liz came to my graduation. So that was the deal. I was like, I'll finish, but you have to come. And then Liz was like, I don't go to graduations. And I was like, no, too bad. And then, so I remember I was like walking in. I was like, if Liz is not here, I'm going to Deakin to do this graduation. Deakin in
I'm not walking on that
Geelong.
stage.
I refuse. And it was like, I think the degree had like, there was only like, it was like me. And then there was all the other cohorts. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'll go up and get my singular film, television, animation degree. And I am glad. I definitely am very grateful that I've like finished it. And I think it's the thing of like producing, right? Like I'm really glad it's done. And I have it.
Yeah.
And I think like it was, I definitely, for me and my kind of path, it worked out in the right way that I was able to commit and like get kind of my foot in the door enough that then I was like, okay, cool. I can like do these subjects at the same time and still manage it.
Yeah.
I remember I was on a feature. I was associate producing a feature in Kyneton. We were living on location. And I was like, sorry, guys, I know we've wrapped, but I've got to go do my assignment. Going in there trying to do, like, I don't even remember what those subjects were, but I'm sure they were great. Worth it. Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, got it done. And I think I always tried to like find a project, like I tried to find an elective that like related.
Yeah.
But I cannot tell you what they were. But it was quite funny to be like, wow, here I am doing the job that I wanted from the degree.
Yeah.
Being like, well, I've got to go finish my assignment. But definitely glad it's finished and it's a thing. Because then now I'm here as a story of wonder.
As a story of wonder. Absolutely. And so tell me a little bit about how you ended up doing more kind of documentary features and I don't know how you identified that like, oh yeah, this is something I could do and want to do.
Yeah, I think when I think about the documentary step into my career, it just kind of happened. It's one, and I think I really enjoy documentaries. I definitely think I really enjoy watching them. And I also think I really enjoy, like there's so much story and there's so many wonderful things in real life as well. Like I definitely love scripted films. But I do think that, there's so many stories out there. Everyone could have a documentary about themselves and it would be interesting.
Yeah.
Because everyone has something to say.
Yeah. People are interesting.
People are interesting and life is interesting and life is hard and life is great.
Yeah.
So I think it was just a bit of a natural progression in the documentary space for me that I met Christina. So Christina is the director of Spreadsheet Champions. We'll come back to Christina. And we started making sort of small things together. And I think we both knew we liked telling sort of slightly obscure stories or things that sort of are attention grabbing but universal. And we did, so I produced her, I think it was her master's. So she did her master's at Deakin. So I produced that for her. And that was the sort of first documentary credit I got, which was cool. And so we got to do that together and then we sort of created a few more together. And then we did some stuff for Vice, which was really great because I think Vice Australia were
I was going to say, some of this
very Vice-esque.
This is very Vice-y, yeah.
So that was awesome. It was great that we sort of at the time had that and we were making things and we sort of met the team at Vice and they were really great. And I think it all started, I think it's really funny that when I think about my film career or trajectory, it's always because I haven't gotten something that something else has happened. So we applied for this funding round for a project called Party in the Back, which is a documentary about the Mullet Festival up in Kurri Kurri, New South Wales. And we applied to it was a Screen Australia and Vice funding thing. Mm. We applied. We're like, great, literally perfect. It's the perfect thing for them. We didn't get it. And we're like, all right, okay, it doesn't matter. It's okay. It doesn't always happen. And then Vice reached out and said, hey, we want to do it anyway. We're like, okay, amazing. So then we did it. It wasn't, same size of budget and stuff, but they were like, we'll give you a budget if you can make it for this, we'll drop it on our channel. Cool. So we're like, amazing. And then it happened again. Like a few years later, we did a TikTok series called Suburban Legends, which is about all the little kind of local legends in towns. That's nice. There's the Fitzroy Carrot Man and there's the Water Bottle Girl, and there's always someone somewhere that is doing something that everyone knows about, and you're like, why? And they all got reasons, but it's just one of those things. So we applied for a Screen Australia and TikTok grant for it and didn't get that. And I'm like, all right, cool, guess we suck. And then Screen Australia reached out and we're like, hey, it's a pretty good idea. Think about throwing it back in for development anyway.
Nice.
And then we did. And I think we then ended up, we're like, I think we've developed it. We'll just go straight for production. We got production funding. We made the series. It got 2 million views on TikTok and Instagram. Good. So it's always been let's just keep going. Let's just try again. And there's always been versions of, and it's just crazy to think about. It's it never works out. You've just got to keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just points you onto the right path.
Well, and I think there's definitely stories within the process that have fallen over, right? The things that aren't, I don't want to say worth it, but the things that, weren't strong enough and the passion wasn't strong enough dropped. Mm-hmm. But the things that were like, no, I don't know why, but I really believe in this one.
Yeah, it's kind of a test in
it's
your
a test.
Conviction on an idea or
absolutely,
and your drive.
Our drive, because it's if you're not going to fight that first fight, then it's 5 years ago. It's going to be long and hard.
Yeah, there's going to be many fights. Yeah. Well, let's get to it. Let's talk about Spreadsheet Champions. So, firstly, where did this idea come from, and how did you get involved?
Yeah, so Spreadsheet Champions, it was back in 2018, a long time ago, lifetime ago, I think.
Wow.
End of the year, Christina read an article that said, I think it was Australian teen world best in Excel. Mm-hmm. And then she sent it to me and she was like, hey, what? Wouldn't this be a great doco? And then I think we were like, yeah, wouldn't this be a great doco? And then I think she went and did some research, couldn't find anything else that existed on Excel. We knew obviously Spellbound is an incredible documentary about spelling bee. Mm-hmm. And there's sort of always other little versions. There's hot dog eating competitions. There's King of Kong. It's such a genre. Mm-hmm. And they're like, but they haven't done a computer one yet. So then we were like, wait a second, this could be our thing. So we reached out to the competition organisers. So Certiport is the company that runs the competition, and literally just sent an email saying, hey, we're from Australia. We heard about this competition. We absolutely love it. Would somebody be open to having a conversation and us potentially making a documentary? And I think we just finished the Mullet Festival documentary. So we sent that brazen to just send that off. But I think it had done quite well. It was very well received on YouTube because it was posted on YouTube. So, and And it definitely showed our intention of like how we communicate something that is unusual, but with a lot of empathy, and that we're not here to make like a current affairs style gotcha doco. We're very much here making like a empowering documentary about, that was our angle. And then they replied, and there was a period of time where we were trying to like negotiate and try to figure out what they were going to let us in to do it. And then we got some development funding from Vic Screen. They were Film Vic back then. Like it was so long ago that they rebranded.
Many years, it was black and white.
The pictures, the pictures. And then, yes, we started developing. We were getting ready to start filming. And then, COVID happened. And and then we sort of were like, it's that kind of thing though, where the idea could have just dropped and fell. But it didn't. We just sort of kept going as we could.
What did you do during that kind of 2-ish year period, I guess? Yeah,
it was really interesting. We weren't even sure if the competition was going to keep happening because they were impacted. So 2020, I'm pretty sure they didn't even run a competition. And 2021, it ran online. So we sort of just stayed in touch and we sort of were just communicating how we'd still absolutely love to. But I think for us, the beauty in the idea and the beauty in the competition is the internationality of it, is the fact that they bring all these students from all around the world together for 1 week, and they nerd out about Excel or PowerPoint or Word. Like it's magical. So I think for us, we were like, and we had to wait. Like we were like, oh my God, should we wait? This is scary. Like this is our big idea and we might lose it because the competition might die. That, we don't want to do the online version. We don't want to film the online version because it's not got the same sort of appeal. They might change their minds. It's been like 2-3 years now, like where people are, moving through the business. Yeah. So we just sort of committed to staying in touch and committed to talking. I think we would have Zoom calls like every couple of months. And then 2022 came around, so everything sort of started to settle, and they confirmed they were doing an in-person competition with like a few of the countries that couldn't attend or that were impacted from the year before. They couldn't do the virtual one. So it was a little bit different. It wasn't their full scale event. And then we were like, okay, great. Like, let's shoot a sizzle. We'll go over, we'll film it, we'll see what it's like, because the competition, people talk about it, and now I am part of it. There's like a twinkle in people's eyes when they talk about how wonderful the Microsoft Office Specialist World Championships is. And we were like, what is going on? Like, why are
what am I missing
grown-ups, like American corporate people, cutthroat, scary Americans, like, you think about meeting an American lawyer and you're like, oh my God, they're the real deal. Like they are really hitting you with the lingo. Soften completely and just talk about how much they love it. And we're like, this is so beautiful.
Dabbing their eyes as they talk about
fully
clip art or something like that.
Absolutely. And like everyone is like, you are kidding. And I'm like, I'm not kidding. This is like so special. And then Christina went and filmed a sizzle and came back with the same twinkle in her eye. I was like, okay, so it is. It's just this really special thing. So then we did our sizzle, and then we just pretty much picked back up from 2022.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what does the sizzle do? Is that to get funding, to get, a team together? Yeah, sizzle. So I think a sizzle in documentary and a sizzle reel. This is like a sizzle, a little trailer. The official term, sizzle reel. That's the new name of this podcast. Welcome to Sizzles of Wonder. By Deakin University. Essentially it helps you. It's essentially just like a micro, and I think everyone uses them differently, but I think it's sometimes to show your characters, it's sometimes to show your tone, and sometimes it's just like a little trailer. You can use a little trailer from if you've already interviewed, because with docos, right, you could be getting an archive of thousands of hours of footage, and you've got it all, you've shot it all, essentially all the media exists, you just need to make it. So you pull from that archive and kind of show what the story is. And I think for us, our sizzle, we had 2 sizzles before. Okay, we've had 3 sizzles. It's been a long process. But the first sizzle was off found footage we found on the internet and cut it together to get that first. It was so bad. Like, we were also babies back then. And then the second sizzle, so the first sizzle was to communicate the idea. Yep. I think the second sizzle was to communicate our vision. It's like this, Christina shot the footage. So it was very much like guided by her. She was interviewing people. So it was like her story. And then so we cut that sizzle, which is like, this is our version of Spreadsheet Champions. And then the third sizzle that we did was after we had actually filmed the whole thing, because we weren't financed by that point properly anyway. Oh, wow.
Yeah, so much tea we can drop. No, it's just doco. Things are hard and they take their own form. And so the third one, it was to show our characters. And because then once
did you go back in 2023 then? So Christina went over in 2022, had a look, came back with a sparkle in her eye, twinkle in her eye, filmed the sizzle, put the sizzle together, and then 2023
we filmed
was the full,
that was the full
so
year.
So it's just the two of you that went over, right?
Oh yeah, it was crazy. We had two camera operators in the US for the comp.
Okay, yeah.
And a sound recordist.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, pretty much the whole backstory, the whole international trip was just the two of us.
Wow. And how many countries did you say?
We did, so there were 6 countries in the film total.
Yeah.
Australia and then 5 others.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how many flights did you say again?
18.
Like 18?
Yeah. I think 17 because I think it was about 18 flights. Yeah.
Wowee.
Yeah.
So when do you sort of pick your characters in a process like that? Is it just you film as much as you can, everyone, as many interviews as you can, you kind of do it, on the cutting room floor, or is it a bit along the way, or what was the process for this one anyway?
Well, yeah, I think it's different all the time. I think it's depending on the film you're making. But I think one of the massive challenges we had for Spreadsheets was that while it's an incredible stake for the film, very hard practically, students can only compete once in their lives.
Oh, wow.
So we have no repeat talent. We have no student that has won every year in a row. So we're like, great, that's our competitor. So with the Microsoft Office Specialist World Championships, students can only compete once. We were like, ugh. And that was essentially the challenge. The biggest challenge we had was the fact that we were going to go into filming. We knew who our characters were before, because they qualify. It's just the time between when they qualify and win their national championships to when they compete at the Worlds is like a 3-month window. Very tight.
Wow.
And in the way that Australia finances films, that kind of leeway to show these are our characters to then filming, it's not enough time.
Yeah.
So we were like, okay, we have to sort of we have to figure it out ourselves and then come back. And once we've done it, figure it out that way in terms of the financing piece.
Yeah.
But we were in touch with all the countries, and we sort of knew that we wanted to get a good spread of countries for the film. So we knew we couldn't lock in characters just yet, but we definitely knew we wanted to be in touch. We wanted to map the world as far as we could with our budget and the time we had. So we kind of had just done a lot of pre-work. We'd mapped out when each country qualifies. We had spoken to each country's, the person that runs each country, so that when time came, we're like, great, as soon as your student is the winner, send them this, see if they'll be in it, and then reach out. And then we just jumped on a Zoom call. And then we picked our 6. A lot of it was because they were all so different. They were wonderful, the 6 students that we have. And logistically, the countries we could get to, the visas we could get in time, very boring stuff, but that was part of it.
But yeah.
We have to get there.
You have to think about as well as a producer.
Yep. And then also how we were going to film it. If we're going into a country where we can't have translators and, we can't have that support, how are we managing that? So it was a logistic thing, but then also based on the characters we got 6 very, very wonderful students who all represent very different things from very different parts of the world.
Yeah.
So we had to cast, it was year dependent. So that's why when we selected 2023, we're like, well, this is the year. These are the students. We got to go.
Yeah.
Because we can't film next year and pick it up because it won't work. They won't compete in the same competition.
Well, it's interesting though, because it sounds like you have to sort of use limitations to
totally.
great, this is it. We make decisions. We work with what we've got.
Totally. And I think that is true. It makes it better. I think restrictions are important. Having limits are important because it kind of tests you on what's really important, right? Christina was filming herself, but that made the documentary really intimate, and it was just the two of us. So everyone's really comfortable because it was just us two turning up.
Yeah.
Putting a camera up, and it wasn't, hectic lights and all this stuff. It was just the two of us sitting there and saying, okay, tell us, how'd you qualify? What happened?
Yeah.
Why do you love Excel?
And is that normal for a documentary to pretty much just have a crew of 2 people?
Yeah, I think documentaries, they scale, right? You've got the Beckham documentary that I'm sure did not have 2 people, but you've got, I think they take the form that they need to, which I think is what I also like about documentaries. It's you don't need to just have this okay, cool, I'm filming, I'm going to get this. It's like, no, what does the story need? How do we get the best out of someone that's not a trained professional to sit and talk on camera for 2 hours? Because it's really hard. Yeah. It's really, really hard. And like, so yeah, I think it's quite standard for definitely our level of documentary, right? Like this was our first feature as like lead creative. So Christina had directed other stuff. I'd produced other stuff, shorter form things, but we'd never done a feature ourselves. So no one's going to give us millions of dollars to make this first thing. So I think, and the more I think about it, when we were in 2023 and we were getting ready to film, I was like, I haven't wrangled the millions of dollars as a producer, I haven't done it, but I think it gave us all these other wins, right? And I think someone asked me a question, was like, what would you have done differently? And I'm like, I actually don't think I would have done anything differently through this process. I feel like you just learn so much and restrictions, and
you did the best option at the time.
We did the best we could.
Each hoop along the way, right?
Absolutely. And we knew ultimately we always wanted to come back to having strong kind of protagonists, strong characters that felt comfortable, that could be themselves, that could also be proud of being part of this story. And I think because they're students, they're young, that always just came back to like, okay, cool, how do we make them feel comfortable on screen? How do we let them be? Because they're also competing at this World Championships. Like this is the most stressful time of their lives to date. A lot of them haven't been on, into other countries before. This is all a lot, and we're tagging on being like, can you tell us how you feel? So we sort
it's
of
like MasterChef when they're like in the middle of a stressful meal.
Let me get
You're
the
like,
crock and
what are you
bush
doing
done.
there? Can you describe?
So yeah, I think it always it allowed us to come back to that, and that's why restrictions are important, because it kind of always makes you like, okay, what's really important here?
Yeah.
What do we really have to get done here? And then everything else will be okay.
Yeah.
So I think it's
crystallizing.
There you go.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about what happened. So you filmed this in 2023 and it gets released, like it's still kind of only going to a wide release, if that now. What happened between that time and where'd the money come from? And what, so you've got this hot pile of film that you come back with.
Yeah.
Take it from there.
Well, yeah, I think, and before 2023, I think we definitely should mention that our editor for the project, so Shannon Michaelis, also a Deakin graduate. So we are very Deakin heavy at Spreadsheet Champions. He was our editor. He edited the second sizzle for us, and then the company that he works for, the editors, helped us with the third sizzle. So Shannon and their kind of post-production team helped us prepare the sizzles and kind of help create the assets we needed to secure the sort of post-production funding. So that was the angle that we went for. We pitched the project with the third sizzle that we had at the Australian Documentary Conference, so AIDC, Australian International Documentary Conference, AIDC. And that was fantastic. Like for us to pitch at the factory was the first time we got to like test the concept with like an audience. We were able to see like, because I think like we always like this could just, because we see people light up about the competition, but also about spreadsheets. Like this was like this crazy angle that I didn't understand at the time. I didn't understand that Excel and spreadsheets just like unlock something in people's brains. Like it's got such a community around it. So we publicly pitched at the factory in the start of 2024, and that got a really great reception. So we sort of had that validation. We had the sizzle. We had like gotten in to pitch, and then we sort of prepared, or we'd like met with the funding bodies, so they kind of knew who we were. We were coming in for funding, and they were like, "Oh yeah, I heard this pitched at the documentary conference," and 500 people in the room were like clapping and laughing. Always validating to have that sort of thing when you're going into funding, because there's so many people all going for the same thing. So yeah, we did that. We were very fortunate. We got the funding, and then we edited the film from like mid 2024 to the end of 2024. So we did that whole process with like wonderful partners. So we, the editors were the post-production company that ran it for us, with Shannon, our editor, Shannon. And then we sort of worked with Pancho, who did the VFX, Windmill, who did sort of our sound mix, and they're all just sort of local. We didn't have a lot of money, but they all just loved the concept, and they all just jumped in. They jumped in behind us, and they were amazing. And then within that sort of tail end of 2024, we sort of submitted to festivals. Come 2025, we got an email saying we got into South by Southwest. So just our little world premiere.
Just a little South by Southwest. And, just before that, you'd gotten, again, in a similar theme to what you've spoken about before, you got a no from another festival, right?
Absolutely,
before you got a yes to, one of the biggest ones in the world.
Yeah, so I was going to gloss over the fact that we didn't get into festivals actually, but thanks for bringing that up. But
It's okay. No, we're about accountability here.
Yeah, okay, cool. That's fair enough. No, so we submitted to a bunch of festivals. We got, I think for us, we always like, oh my God, Sundance, how amazing, wouldn't it be wonderful?
Yeah.
Because you sort of like, you make this film and then you just submit to the ones you think, you're like, we'll just give it a go.
Yeah.
We did get a beautiful rejection from Sundance, which felt nicer. It's like, it feels personal. Like they really care about it. So it was, what is it, 4,000 films or something try to get in, and like 100 get picked. It's crazy.
Yeah. Insane.
So that was, we were like, oh God, oh well.
Yeah.
And then I think you just get that first rejection. You're like, it's never going to get into any festival ever.
Yeah.
And then like, I think about a week and a bit later, like it wasn't that far on. I was on a location recce for another doco and I felt my phone vibrate in my pocket and I was like, what is this? I looked at my phone and it just was like South by Southwest, and then a contract. And I was like,
wow.
Whoa, we got into South by.
That's so fantastic.
It was really
Congratulations.
Awesome. Yeah.
What was that experience like?
I really have to think about South by Southwest because I genuinely feel like I blacked out because it was so overwhelming. But it was amazing. Like it was incredible to like even be, and I think the beautiful thing for us was that we got into South by Southwest and then they put us in their first release of films,
wow,
which is awesome, but also meant I didn't have to keep the secret for that long because that was hard to be like, you guys don't even know.
Yeah, how much advance notice did you get?
We didn't get that long. I think we sort of had like a 6-week lead time from when we found out to when the festival was on.
Yeah,
it's tight. Well, for the the big headliners, I'm sure have a big leeway, but for us, it's general programmers. In you go, come on over. We were very fortunate to get Screen Australia funding to send us over. So we got sort of travel support, which was amazing, so that we could all go and attend the festival.
Nice.
And then, we got to be there and like, we premiered in like sort of opening weekend and like I think, which is crazy, they programmed The Accountant 2 and Spreadsheet Champions on at the exact same time. Are you telling me you're not splitting audiences with that? That is crazy. But like, even to be like, oh cool, like that film is premiering down the road and we're premiering down the road. Like that is what? Like who even thinks that can happen? So I think that was really amazing. And we, you're just there and like you're seeing audiences, US audiences watching your film for the first time. And we're like, God, we hope they find it as funny as we do. Or like.
Was that just
so scary?
Yeah, bizarre and just otherworldly, like out of body.
Absolutely. I think the whole of South by Southwest was out of body. Like I flew home and I was like, what just happened? But it was amazing. And like, we kind of sold out and had very full cinemas and people were laughing and people were crying. So we were like, okay. I think it works. And then we've been fortunate. We screened at Hot Docs in Canada, which is like, I think North America's biggest documentary festival.
Amazing.
Which was awesome to sort of have the like South by Southwest and then the Hot Docs pairing, I think was really kind of validating for us to be like, great, we made a documentary and then we made something that like can be recognized at this global level. And then we came back and we had our Australian premiere in August at the Melbourne International Film Festival, which was like, I don't want to say better because I feel like but it was like so special to be screening.
And to be at home, like your home festival.
Absolutely. And we go, like I remember going, you go to MIF all the time and you're like, wow, to get a film in MIF. And then, we would premiere fund films. So MIF supported the documentary as well. So they were part of our financing. So I think obviously we always knew we were going to screen at MIF, but when it kind of came around, it was like, no, this is really special. And MIF, like, they're a wonderful team. So they like definitely make like everyone feel, I'm sure, very like part of the festival, but local filmmakers, they definitely champion so much. And they've always loved the film. And I think to have that support, it was just like, it was so beautiful. And then 5 out of 6 of the students came to the premiere. We got some funding for them. So it's just been like an absolute whirlwind.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And we were looking to release in November. So
wow.
Very, very soon.
Well, let's hope it gets as good of a response as it has so far.
we'll see. But I think, we were saying haters are important as well. So I think.
Well, yeah, has it gotten any bad reviews?
I don't want to talk about them. No. Yeah, I think I'm happy with the bad reviews. I'm happy with good or bad reviews. I think no reviews would have been more stressful.
Yeah. At least someone's watching them.
Yeah, it's passion. It's negative, but it's still passion. I think that's important.
Yeah. Listen to us. So leave your bad reviews.
No.
In the comments.
I've just told you how hard it's been. Don't leave bad reviews.
With everything that you've learned making documentaries, what do you look for in a really interesting kind of protagonist? Like, what's the kind of thing, the glimmer in their eye, or the little twinkle, or the characteristic that you can kind of, in your experience, go, hold on, there's something there.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because I always think about that too, and I'm like, why? What was it? Like, what is the thing?
How did we know?
Yeah, how did we know? I think for me, it's always that like the story that will kind of, I think I love watching a doco that you think it's one thing and then you just learn. It's just complete, like kind of the themes and the tone and the story is about something else. Like I think if you can find that duality in a story and the depth in a story, I think it's so awesome. So if you've got a protagonist that's doing one thing but also represents all this other stuff, or a lead character who does this but is just like so the opposite of like what you think they are. It's always just that moment of like enlightenment in a story. Like you sit into a dark room, often if you're going into the cinema for 90 minutes watching something with strangers around you. What a crazy experience. For then to be watching something where it's real life, it's real, and it's just not what you think it is. I just think this is such a wide answer, but I do think that there's something really special in that. And that's what I love when I watch documentaries is like that hidden sort of story within a story. So I'm always looking to be like, okay, cool. So that's what happens, but what's it about? So I think that's, and for Spreadsheets, like you're watching 6 students compete on Excel, but really it's all about the power of education, digital literacy, the internationality, understanding what it's like to, seeing 6 countries in 86 minutes and then, hoping the one you like wins. So it's always, you just bring someone in with something and then you just tell them something else.
People, but it's something to do with the people and the actual human
it's the
story behind it.
The human story, I think, always, right? Like you always, and I think it's always really interesting because we always focus on like these big, crazy things, right? You're like, oh, well, what about the person that was the best in the world at this? But always it's the things that you and I can relate to are the things that we have in common, which is obviously always sometimes the normal, smaller stories. Like we all know what it's like to, not get something that you want. We don't all know what it's like to get something that you want. Like a lot of the times you'll try really hard, but you might not ever get it. So like trying to find those things that bring us together and they're not always the big shiny stories. And it's just trying to find and make those stories engaging because I think I don't know. I don't know. That's what I
know what you mean. Yeah. Like it almost makes me think of like, the Michael Jordan documentary on Netflix and just sort of, best basketball player of all time in the world, blah, blah, blah. But it's just like, that's not an interesting documentary subject.
No, it's all the other things within that.
It's all of his, like why or
how.
Yeah.
It's always those things. It's like, and when you can find obviously, and I think the celebrity docos that do really well are the ones that actually have those little things in there where it's like not just like a story about Lady Gaga, but it's like all those other things that you're like, whoa, I've, got to spend all this time in like Lady Gaga's life and I've learned all these other things. It's the universality, I think, that it's always finding a fun and interesting and engaging way to tell universal stories. There we go. I've got the soundbite.
There we go. We'll clip it to that. Yeah. What advice would you give someone who's starting out in film today?
I think that, that's such a good question because I always think about like what I would have done differently or like what I wish someone told me when I was starting my degree. But I think like for me, ultimately, it's always come back to the ability to connect and communicate with people. So I think when you're studying, if you choose anywhere you choose to study, but specifically if you choose to study here, get to like meet people, work on other people's projects, like just cross-pollinate because it's so important. Like your network and your community is everything. Like you meet someone and they go, oh, I remember this person, and then they'll bring you on the next job and trial things, do the roles you're not sure of to know you don't like them. Like this is the kind of safest space you're going to have in the, in the time that you're working. because, you know, you're here for a degree, you're paying for it, you've got access to equipment, you've sort of got a safety net, right? So try as much as you can and you'll find out what you don't like, but then maybe you'll find out what you do. And I think when I was like kind of finishing my degree and thinking about it, my final year project was like quite strange, and it was like a film about a lady who sort of lost a bit of her sanity and started hanging dolls up around her house. So just, I can't even remember why I wrote that, but I was like, great, this will be interesting. But I think it was cool because it was like the time that I could experiment with a story and not really have to face the consequences of it. I didn't have to like pay for the gear or outside of my tuition, but I wasn't like pulling people together on this like crazy idea. I could make the crazy idea here. And so it was like a trial and error thing. And I think it was a really cool, and I wish I thought about that more. I think I was like, oh, can I just like, I wish I had taken advantage more of the safety net of a film degree. Like you have access to such like industry quality things.
Yeah.
And
just
you're
like resources, people.
Absolutely. And you've got leaders, like you've got lecturers, you've got guests. And I'm sure like if you asked your lecturer, like if I had asked Liz or Donna, hey, I need help with this or I want to meet someone with that, I have no doubt that they would, because they just love what they do and they love teaching and educating and sharing, that if I had asked them for help or asked them for something, they would have tried their best to make it happen or to connect it. So, I think take advantage of the facilities and of your peers and learn how to work together. Yeah. Because if you can't do that, it's going to be hard. So I think learn how to do that.
What is one documentary you think everyone should watch?
Spreadsheet. No, I'm absolutely kidding. I'm not going to plug that one. I mean, I've always really loved Spellbound. I think since I watched Spellbound, which is the documentary about the spelling bee, it was just like the first time, and I watched it like, I think when I was studying at Deakin for the first time, and then I went back and watched it recently. It was the first time I saw like, I'll say like that. You just saw people being spotlighted and championed that you weren't used to seeing, and they're kids and they're brilliant, and you see them. And I think with Spellbound, it's so visible, like they're spelling these words, and you can see them panic. And then you understand like why spelling is so important. I think it's been really special in terms of my trajectory. So I think Spellbound, you should at least know about it. Yeah, because I think it's just a really important doco.
Yeah,
yeah.
And finally, Spreadsheet's coming out. What's next for you?
Yeah, so Spreadsheet Champions is coming out November 13. So I think it will already be out by the time you're watching this. So
I think so.
If go on spreadsheetchampions.com,
Link
have a watch.
in bio.
Sure, it'll be somewhere there. I think I'm very lucky. So I work for Good Thing Productions, which is a Victorian production company. So I am really grateful to be working across their slate of projects. And I think we'll have a documentary coming out on the ABC at the end of next year.
Cool.
So that'll be really cool. So I'm very lucky to work where I work and get to be involved in so many great projects with that team. They are very supportive. They were our co-producing partners on Spreadsheet Champions, and they're wonderful. I think, I'm really lucky because Good Thing, they craft really great stories. I think they're kind of the stories I want to watch, and to work there is amazing, but they also are really supportive of like crazy ideas that I have. They're like, go on, give it a go, figure it out. So I'm really grateful to work there.
Nice. Well, Spreadsheet Champions, check it out. Liz Bolch, thank you from everyone here. And Anna Charalambous, thank you so much for being on Stories of Wonder.
Thanks for having me.
I have always thought I am a bizarre person.
I don't think many people at all understand I can have a competition on just Microsoft Excel.
They're representing their country on a stage that thousands of other students did not qualify for.
The tech sector run the world now, so we need champions like these young people promoted and represented.
Imagine, I could be like a YouTuber and an Excel winner.
This year's tests are definitely the most challenging ones we've ever developed.
Just don't royally mess up.
Everyone, they really want to get this first place prize.
I think everyone is good, but I am better.
Our world champion,
goes to